Hi there, I'm Ben Pearce and welcome to the Tech World Human Skills Podcast. Every episode we talk through how to thrive in the tech world, not just survive. Now, if you want me to work with your team, just give me a shout. I love to help teams be more influential, memorable and successful with their stakeholders. Head over to www.techworldhumanskills.com to book a chat. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Tech World Human Skills Podcast. It is brilliant to have you with us again today. So in today's episode, we're going to continue talking about leadership. So this is the second in a bit of a series that I'm doing with Ben Caird on Leadership 101. So I did some work with a customer and they were asking me, what are kind of the core leadership skills that we need to develop in our team? So I put together that series, which is just finished, and I thought it'd be brilliant to come and talk about that with a very seasoned leader. So today we're going to be talking about leading through change and how important it is, and also some really practical things that you can do to get better at doing it. Before we go on any further, I think we should welcome our lovely guest. So please welcome to the show, the wonderful Ben Caird.
Thanks. Nice to be here.
It's lovely to have you back.
Like I've never been away.
Now, for people that maybe haven't listened to this show before, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, very, very high level. 25 years working in technology, be that software IT and managing large global groups, doing cool stuff, really.
Yeah. And I think one of the key things that we've both been through, and we used to lead together at Microsoft many, many years ago, was change. There was a lot of change then, and there is probably even more change now. And so being able to lead and navigate a team through change, really, really important. So maybe we start there. Why is it so important to be able to lead a team through change?
Well, I think the two words are quite important, leading and change, because I would say if you're not driving change, you're probably not leading. It sort of feels like a bit like almost managing run state, if that makes sense, which, I mean, that doesn't really exist anymore. I don't think. Everything is evolving and changing. And then if you think about effective change, that really means that the humans are bought in and doing a great job, right, with whatever the change might be. So I think leading through change, I think, means engaging people, bringing them with you, and then I always think about how many people can we all have pointing in the same direction so that we can drive that, that business impact ultimately, but hopefully a business impact that people are excited about and builds the future.
Yeah. And I remember when we first had a chat about doing this episode, I remember saying to you, why is change so important? And you had a reaction that was quite quick and quite visceral, and you went, if you ain't leading change, you ain't leading, I think was the phrase, the phrase that you used.
Similar to that.
Something like that. Like, it's that important. Like, it's a no-brainer. And so I was thinking about that and sort of reflecting on that a little bit, just like where we are in the tech world at the moment, and things that are changing very rapidly. AI is changing, business models, the way tech works. So the type of tech we need to learn, the way we work. So, that's a massive change that's happening right now. Tech has always been a fast changing, adaptive thing anyway. Things like geopolitics, easy for you to say, geopolitics. I mean, literally you don't, tariffs may be in today, they may not be in tomorrow, you don't know. And you've got to be able to do that. Alongside things like just your normal reorgs, or just, I think we could do this better, this thing that we're doing. So it feels like really now change is just so important.
Yes, absolutely. And I sort of, I guess to use some terms, I think about the continuous improvement change, and then I think about that kind of building the future, the transformation change. And so I think both of those typically happen in parallel, don't they? And that's also part of the challenge, is trying to line all those things up, often across the same people.
Yeah. Well, so I think we should maybe dig into some practical sort of steps, maybe a framework or so that we can think about. I love a framework. And I love a framework because it's just something to hang my thoughts off. It doesn't mean I have to do it all the time, but it's a place to start. And if I think there's a better approach, I can. But you're starting at a good place as opposed to just starting,
absolutely
from nowhere. So maybe we can dig into some of those sorts of bits and pieces. There's a couple of models that are quite popular.
Yes.
Two of the most famous, I think, are ADKAR and Kotter.
Yep.
I know ADKAR a lot better. You've done a bit of work with Kotter as well.
Yeah, I quite like Kotter.
You quite like it. Do you maybe just want to frame at a high level what these sorts of things are?
Very simplistically, it's a multi-step framework for chat. I love the framework as well.
Right. Taking the mic, but you love it too.
Yeah. But I think there's the academic side, if you like, and then there's the how you apply it in real life side, isn't there? So a framework is good, the guiding principles are great, and then it's the execution in the scenario that's probably the difference. I would say, having looked across Kotter and ADKAR, Kotter would be, it's an 8-step thing, and essentially these are the things you must do and a rough order of things. ADKAR is much more about how the people really engage and then ultimately embrace the change and how they feel and how they work at different points. So actually, they're not competitive. I would say they're complementary, and quite often I would say I've brought in various ADKAR things when I've been thinking Kotter. Yeah. And there's a bunch of different good resources. I like the 8 steps of Kotter. I think we're going to talk probably a bit more about ADKAR today. Yeah. But both are useful. And if you want really easy listening, there's a fable, Our Iceberg is Melting, for Kotter, which just talks in terms of penguins, how you might think about driving change. So there's some nice simple things out there to help you get your head around it. And
it's interesting because I remember the first time I got trained on this, and it was ADKAR, which is part of ProSci.
Yes.
Thinking back to it, actually, you'd just left a role where you were managing like a cloud incubation team. So it was back in the days when Office 365 was first launched.
And was BPOS, I think.
Yeah, BPOS into Office 365 for the old people listening to this.
Yeah.
And you'd finished that team and gone off to do something else. And I'd then picked up that team. And I remember because it was at a time when Microsoft had always been selling like server software, and it was like Microsoft sell you this thing, cost you loads of money. Whether you're successful with it or not doesn't matter because you've already paid the money. And then suddenly there was this paying per inbox or per user per month.
Yes.
And if they're not getting value and it's not working very well, then they're not going to pay you anymore. Yeah. So suddenly Microsoft got very vested in the fact that people were successful.
Adoption is key in the cloud world, right? I suppose. Yeah.
And so this now was a long time ago, probably 10 years or so. Consumption economics. That was another good book.
Yes.
So that's where I learned it. But once I had learnt it, I was like, this is amazing. I needed to have learnt this earlier. This is a great way to think about it. So I think this is really important, whether you're leading teams as a people manager or whether you've not got any direct reports, but you're trying to drive projects and trying to get change done. Either way, I think, or with customers. If you're a consultant trying to drive change with customers, or a pre-sales person trying to drive change with customers, understanding this, I think, is really fundamental.
Yeah. Well, how does it feel if somebody suggests something to you and you're excited by it and you go after it, compared to if you're told, I'm not interested, just go and do the thing.
Yeah.
Completely different. And that's massive simplification.
Yeah.
But that's really what we're driving at, is to try and get as many people excited and well equipped to ultimately drive the change and feed into it and help make it as successful as possible.
And this could be a change, some new technology being deployed, a new process coming out. Interestingly, you can apply this easily to things like a weight loss regime and getting fit, or so it applies for everything from personal change through to new tech, through to new processes.
Yes,
whole range you could apply this to.
Yeah, and we're talking about, if you like, human change management. As you say, people and technology. but it really is around how the humans adopt it typically.
Yeah.
Compared, we're not talking about ITIL change management, which is a different thing.
Yeah.
Right. Just for that clarity. Yeah.
So let's maybe dig into ADKAR, and maybe we can use this kind of these five phases of ADKAR to maybe hang our thoughts and share some examples of good change, bad change, that kind of stuff. Shall I hand over to you? What are the do you remember what ADKAR? I'm going to really test you now. Do you remember what ADKAR does? He does. For those of you listening, as he looks at his notepad.
Yes.
Do you want to just run through what ADKAR, because it's an acronym, what does it stand for?
It stands for awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and then reinforce. And I think you prefer action to ability when we talked about this before.
Yes. Yeah. But I didn't write it, so I guess they probably have credence over me.
Yeah, I mean, good humility. But yeah, and I guess we'll dig into those, but that's ADKAR.
And so that was awareness, desire, knowledge, ability / action, reinforce. And I think the important thing is here that's a sequence that people go through. So you start off at A, do some work in A, get them to D. So you start off in awareness, then get them to desire, then get them to knowledge, then get them to action and ability, then get them to reinforce. And people can drop back. So it doesn't mean once you've got them from one stage to the next that they're always going to remain there. But there is no point doing knowledge on how to change if you've not done any awareness of the problem and you've not done created any desire in people to change.
Absolutely. And if you I guess just to go through each really, really quick, simple. Awareness for me is that you know about it, and it's almost the why. So why are we doing the change, and what is it? I'm aware.
Yeah.
Desire is actually I'm bought in.
Yeah.
So not only do I understand it, but I'm with you, and I'm going to do my best. Knowledge is really, do I understand? Is it written down, or is it communicated in a way that I know exactly what is expected? Yeah. Ability or action. Ability is you've got all the things you need in order to do the thing, and then reinforces. Obviously, often it will be recognition. It will be tuning. So generally, there's an improvement loop that happens, isn't there, as well? And then, to your point, different people in the same change will be at different points, and we often talk about a human change curve as well. So people are at different points, essentially from it's a bit like a grief process, really. It's everything from denial through to acceptance, really, and then embracing, I would say as well, hopefully. So hopefully that sort of gives a real high level sense of those five things.
Yeah. Well, let's start to dig into them. So awareness, first phase of ADKAR, and maybe the first thing that you want to do with people. Talk to me about awareness.
I mean, I can give you an example, like kind of a nice example. So awareness, and let's assume that it's a largish organisation. Awareness isn't what I'd call a fire and forget broadcast email. Awareness is sharing it through multiple layers of leadership in a large organisation. Okay. So it's trying to bring it in different ways to different people over time. To give you an example, going back quite some years, I worked on a change, and we wanted to try and make it a bit fun and engaging, and maybe stand out a little bit, so that we could try and, people had change before through dry emails and such. We wanted to do something different. So we used to do a bit of technology that created a cartoon video with a character called Colin. He'd bounce along, there was some catchy music, and it was basically, this is what we used to do. Here's all the value of why we're going to do this, and it's going to make all your lives better because we'll be more effective, and, you'll get less, cases and things that work that's repeatable and dull. It's going to make everything better, and then at the end of it, it's like, be more like Colin. It's a bit cheesy, but then this was pre-COVID when more people were perhaps in the offices, so we could have things stuck up on the wall, and we could just make use humor as well, and then we could kind of bridge off that and do multiple communication to different channels. So that's I guess maybe a good example.
And I think the important thing there is it's awareness of what the problem is
Yes.
or what the opportunity is, isn't it? It's not awareness yet of what you need to do differently. It's awareness going, this thing is broken, costing us too much money, inefficient, we've lost the contract, whatever the thing might be, this is the problem. Or it might be, if you flip it around, this is the opportunity to save you time, the opportunity to save us money, the opportunity,
exactly that,
whatever the thing is.
And it's often you're trying to answer the question, what's in it for me, for your audience that you want to drive the change with.
Yeah. And so if I maybe bring this to life, as we're recording this in January, perhaps a lot of people in the world are thinking that they've put on excess pounds over Christmas, and January starts with the health drive.
Indeed.
And so maybe if we were to set this in a bit of a fun scene of, right, I'm going to lose some weight and get a bit fitter this year. Yeah. So awareness, you go, I'm aware that there's a problem. And that could be, I play football on a Tuesday and I can't run for the entire hour. I'm knackered after 30 minutes.
Yes.
Or that could be, I've got kids now and I struggle to get down on the floor and get them up. Or it could be, I've done one of those MOTs and my blood pressure. There's something that's happened that goes, I'm aware that there is a bit of a problem here.
Indeed.
So then we move on to D. Can you unpack D for me?
That is desire.
Okay.
So that is about trying to get people bought in and wanting to do the change, which I think is tricky. So the way I think about that, you definitely want so if I go back to that example, you've got a video that's come out, it's kind of fun and whatever, you're chatting to people about it, you kind of get it, it makes some sense, but you might be a little bit cynical. We have lots of healthy cynics that we work with, and actually humans are geared a little bit to resist change generally, right? We kind of like how things are, and we don't always want to drive change by default. In this scenario, I always think about how you get different people involved in the change who other people would look to. So the most senior person that tells everyone to do it, that's possibly not going to always work, right?
Okay.
I would say something that we did in this one was we had some change champions, change agents, called different things, but some people that really got it, were excited by it, but were actually, in many cases, the other people that needed to adopt the change would listen to them far more than they would a set of senior leaders or in the middle leaders or their direct manager in some cases.
Yeah.
So it's often about talking about it and what it means in different settings. It can be through one-on-ones, it can be in team meetings.
Yeah.
But often the other bit of that is different characters, I think, as well. So sometimes you'll have somebody that's a bit of a character in the team.
Yeah.
Can be a bit challenging and resistant to change. Often, if you can spend a bit more time one-on-one with them and they really buy into it, more people will follow that as well. So it's a bit nuanced and difficult to get into all of it, but I would say it's about having different levels of conversations at different layers in the organisation and picking a mix of people that will help you drive that over time.
Yeah. And it's creating that desire, isn't it? Which is different from the awareness. There's one thing to know that there's a problem, and there's another thing to want to fix it. So, and also how you convince people and help create that desire in people is different. So my mind goes to discovery insights, or some of those things that help you understand people, and you go, some people are quite emotional, they like the big picture, some people are very detail oriented and logical, and so you therefore need a bit of a blend of, hey, here's the emotional connection of why we're going there, but actually here's our rational and logical reason that's set out with some detail behind it, so as it's not all vaporware. It's something that's real and tangible.
Absolutely.
And you've got to convince people differently. And so to go back to that analogy, of the health drive, there's not being able to finish football on a Tuesday, or not being able to get down on the floor to play with your kids, being aware that that's a problem. But then you go, actually, I really do want to be able to finish playing football on a Tuesday. I really do want to be able to get down on the floor and crawl around with the kids that I've just had. So actually, I do need to make a change now. And I understand, and I'm now invested in that and connected to the kind of the mission, the outcome.
And that's the bit where you have to understand the individuals, as you're saying, because obviously the health drive, that's driven by you based on I use the term forcing function, which might not sound, but like the forcing function is, well, I broke my leg, so I've got.
Sweet, you broke
last week. So my forcing function in 5 weeks' time, when I can actually walk again, is to get back and try and get the same level of strength back on my left leg and all of that sort of stuff. But it's trying to find that for all of the people you want to work change through, because it will be different for people. And insights, colours is a nice way, communicating in colour.
Yeah.
But sometimes it is just about having that chat. Well, actually, wouldn't it be cool if? So the example I talked about earlier was actually how you code cases so that we could understand the workload, so we could get rid of some of the easier work. And for technical people, that can be good. There's other technologies and AI and different things that are much more able to help in those spaces. But understanding the workload actually gives people much more opportunity to go and do more cool, difficult, interesting things. Yeah. And so that resonated with some of that audience.
Yeah.
Great.
And also, some of the examples that we've talked through a little bit there are kind of top down, where you're a leader and you have an organisation beneath you that you're trying to drive change. But that equally works when you're in pre-sales or consultancy and you're out there with customers, and now you've got no authority over them whatsoever. So that you are making various change champions aware this is the problem and creating energy that they have a desire to fix it and to be part of the solution. Really important part of getting customers on board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awareness, desire, K. What's that stand for?
Knowledge.
Okay. Well done you. So tell us about that one.
Well, I mean, in very simple terms, knowledge, it's quite self-explanatory. So it's making sure that people have what they need. So if you were changing a process from A to B, then you would have that. So I mean, I can give an example where we moved relatively large organisation across ticketing systems, and what we did there was, for the majority of their processes, we mapped the before and after, and we had a quick reference guide and then a more detailed thing, and then essentially that was the knowledge. So we created artifacts, information, so that people could very quickly understand before and after, or from and to. So that's I mean, that's probably the simplest way to think of it.
The interesting thing I think with knowledge is in the tech world, us as techies so often start there, and we haven't done awareness and desire, and we start with knowledge. So often techies, and I include myself in this, something new, something shiny, something exciting, figure out how it works. Brilliant. Now let's go and tell people. And that could be customers, that could be colleagues. We need to be using this thing. This is how it works. It's exciting. This is how it works. And what we don't do is go, actually, we haven't created a reason to. We haven't, to coin Simon Sinek, start with why. We haven't started with why. This is the problem, and this is how we could fix it and why it's good to fix it. We start with, sometimes, there's this new thing, this is how it works. And we're plugging away there, but you're never going to drive any lasting change there because nobody else cares about the thing that you're talking about. So you've got to make them care.
And the why, just to expand on that. So the why, sometimes the why can sound a bit soft, can't it?
Okay.
And I think what you're saying, both bits of this really, the why is important because you can create emotional connection on that.
Yeah.
But the why is important because actually you want to define a business benefit in most cases. So, and then that kind of comes back to what we're talking about I guess SaaS and cloud and consumption. Really, you really want changes to drive value, and you ideally want to have a sense of where you started and what success looks like, so that you can try and bridge.
And that's going to be in that awareness and that desire. This is the business reason for doing this, and the personal reason for doing this.
It's multifaceted. Isn't it? Of course.
And then, here is the new process. Here is the new technology. And so I guess if we take that to the analogy of the health drive, you've not been able to play football on a Tuesday all the way through. You've then gone, I want to be able to play Tuesday all the way through. And then it's now you've gone to somebody at a gym who said, here is your gym plan. and you've gone to a nutritionist or you looked online and gone, and here is your nutrition plan. And if you follow that plan on exercise, that plan on nutrition, and you do that for 3 months, at the end of the 3 months, you're going to be...
Yeah. I feel like you're trying to drive your own change.
If I say it out loud enough, then I will put the sharing bag of Doritos down on a Friday night. But I can't because they're so lovely.
Well, follow your nutrition plan, Ben.
Exactly. So I need to go back and work on that desire a little bit more. But it's that knowledge, that recipe of how to do it, of that process.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Yeah.
Okay. Awareness, desire, knowledge. A. Tell me about that.
Ability. That I think that kind of carries on from knowledge, but then it's just how you reduce friction, I think.
Okay.
So we talked a bit about knowledge, but I'll give it an example of a change where this was an acquisition. It was a migration. And some of the things that we did, I talked a bit about the knowledge, but actually there's knowledge, which is we've written it all down and you should know.
Yeah.
And then there's how do you actually tune the knowledge so that it's easy to adopt and understand and all of that good stuff. So quite often for technical folks, in fact, all folks, I've often written documentation which has got the 1 sentence skimmable and then the detailed, here's all the stuff you need to know. And so the first time you do your onboarding, you go through all the detail, don't you? But then once you become a seasoned person at it, you've just got that one-liner that just helps you refresh.
Yeah.
And then if you make changes to that process, it's much easier to just... So that would be one way of reducing friction, is by having really consumable knowledge.
Yeah.
And then in this particular change that went well, we had like floor walkers, you might call it in the old world. So we had people that were experts on this that were with the people during the switchover. And so they had the ability to have someone over their shoulder helping them. Where things maybe didn't work, we could feed that back in and we could respond quickly. And so for me, that is really the action. That's where the execution happens, and making sure that there's as much friction removed as possible. Yeah.
And I noticed you threw in the A word, action, there. Because for me, that I think so what it says in the official book and all of that kind of stuff is its ability, and it's about ring fencing time. It's about having those materials that are frictionless, that help you. You got to do something differently, which is why I like that kind of action word. Yeah. You now need to use the new process. You 100%. Now need to use the new technology. You now need to get to the gym and push some weights.
Yeah.
Or you need to stop eating. You can't just keep looking at the documentation. Yeah. You need to take some action, which is why it just feels like such a better word.
I mean, I think we're both impacts. I mean, I do think we talk a lot about the how we do things, and that's really important. Yeah. But without impact, it's meaningless.
Yeah.
So
But also, as you're leading, you've got to give people the space to do that, the time to do that, and the chance to maybe fail and get it wrong, and that it's a safe space to try it again.
And that's why we're probably, I won't go too far on this, but this is sometimes why change you do with a subset of people first, if you can, or you face these things so you can take some learnings. If you do a big bang of a change, sometimes it's required. But if you do a big bang of a change and you do get some things wrong, you can lose people. Whereas if you can stage it with some people that are bought in and just want to be part of making it better, you can do some early course correction. And then as you go to the masses, you've got a higher confidence level, less things go wrong, more people keep that energy buy-in, and you get a better result. So I think, we might talk about bad change, but often we have to do change quickly. Please don't misunderstand that. But sometimes speed is the enemy of adoption. Yeah. I see people going really fast to hit a timeline, which means less people are pointing in the right direction. Yeah.
And we've talked about this on the show before, but I think it's worth saying again because it's so good. It's that efficiency versus effectiveness, isn't it?
100%.
The most efficient way to get people to change is to say, do this, and then they do it. right? But the problem is that's not a very effective way, because most of the people that you tell to do it won't do it. And you might have actually come up with a really bad idea because you didn't include anybody anyway.
Yeah.
So much more effective way to do that is to get people on board, to get them lined up and pointed in the right direction, to take them on this. Yeah. And then it's going to be an effective change as opposed to an efficient change where you've told them to execute my vision, but nobody has, and it was a bad vision anyway.
Yeah. And I talk about sticky change, right? It's about things that last as well. So some of the things, like if you're changing between tools, they kind of are sticky in that you end of life the old thing, right?
Yeah.
But actually in some process and some other changes, people can choose to do it the old way.
Yeah. Or behaviours.
Or exactly that.
Yeah. So okay. So we've got awareness, desire, knowledge, ability / action.
I'm an expert, although I do keep glancing down. Reinforce, and I think this is like the models are good, but I think we, like, once you've done enough changes, you know the order of things, don't you? But yeah, reinforce, and I think that's it's really about making sure that the change is sticky. It's about making sure most of the time 100% of people aren't pointing in the same direction, so you've kind of got that. Bringing people with that's not a headlock, that's putting up arms around people, right? Just for clarity. Sometimes both are required, but metaphorically speaking, but generally, you're trying to bring people with, and things like open sessions where people can bring some of their challenges. They need to be well managed. You need to think about sizes and forums and all of that, but actually having sort of clinics and different ways where people can give their feedback, trying to make it as constructive, those meetings, as possible. Yeah. But that's about, I always think with changes, having a two-way loop is important. So again, normally I would have a little bit pragmatic here, but if people are giving feedback, I track that somewhere. Yeah. And as part of the change comms, I would make sure that we have, this is the feedback you gave and this is what we did. So people know that their feedback is coming in and they're affecting the outcome, basically.
Yeah. And there's all kinds of tactics you can use.
Virtuous cycles, isn't it, to try and get people.
Yeah, I'm sort of thinking about like awards and things like
recognition in all different senses. Yeah,
for people saying, right, yeah, well done. You're the first person to use this 20 times, or to almost the gamification of it 100%. A little bit is a really nice way.
Yeah.
I remember thinking of going back to the health thing. I remember speaking to my sister. This is a few years ago. She said this, and she said she was a member of Weight Watchers, and she said the only reason I pay for that is because every week I have to go to a room full of strangers and get on a scale in front of everybody, and that weekly thing is the thing that makes me put the chocolate bar down.
And there is a phrase that not everyone will like, but you get what you inspect.
Right, okay, right? Yeah.
Now, there's a wrapper around how you land that.
Yeah.
But actually, I didn't touch on it, but the whole desire thing as well, back in the change I was talking about with the video and being more like Colin, we were reporting on how many people were adopting that change. So you could see, if you imagine 1,000-person org as it was, you could see by manager, by group, and then by geography who was adopting the change. And that wasn't about people making people bad and wrong, but you could see, that team's not bought in. So there's either a specific challenge to their team, maybe we need to chat to that leader, So data is really important, and inspecting that in the right way really helps sort of underpin that, drive the right conversations and get meaningful change.
Yeah. So ADKAR, A as awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, action, and then reinforce. And great way, because everybody's going through their own personal sort of change journey.
Yep.
So it's getting that balance of what you do as a team communication kind of level, or a broad communication level, and who's going to take those individuals through it. And maybe you can be both, depending on if you're a consultant, sales, you've got customers, or if it's your team of directs beneath you. You can be more or less of that depending on
Yeah,
the setup.
Going back, like tying a little bit to that, a little bit of healthy competition as well. So, if you can see like team levels of adoption, teams are really good at self-policing it. That probably sounds a bit governy, although it probably is.
Yeah.
In reality, if you can see like a leaderboard of how different teams are doing adopting a change, sometimes teams will work, call each other out in a good way and drive that up. So I think that ties in too, right? It's all those are the bits I think that we've talked. The science is ADKAR, the art is listening, really understanding what's going on and you can't do all the things and you won't ever bring everyone with you, I would say, but you can make a massive difference by having good listening systems. Yeah. Across the org.
Well, we've done ADKAR. I think they're looking at the clock. There's probably just one more question that I want to go through before we wrap up. What we haven't talked about in this thinking about change is the importance of managing stakeholders, managing sponsors. Particularly if I think about most of the people that I work with, in let's say medium to medium to large organisations, they are so matrixed, they are so complex. So it's not a little island of change that's happening. It's and maybe it's some change that you want to make and push, but it affects other departments, but maybe they're not as invested, or certainly if you're working with customers, they might, only a couple of them might be invested, and you've got to get lots of people invested. So how do you think about managing stakeholders and managing sponsors when it comes to change?
There's quite a lot in that question. So if I start with sponsors, so if I think about some of the programs of change that I've owned, having the right sponsors key. So having a sponsor is important. Having the right sponsor is even more important.
Okay.
And so I scribbled a couple of notes down, but I think having someone that's bought in that really is behind the change is key. Sometimes they can help with resourcing, but I would say also blockers. So having a sponsor who is well respected, that's bought in, that really gets it and has the right relationships often is key.
Okay, and by that you're talking like executive sponsor, senior leader, somebody
absolutely.
That's relatively high up, that has got some chops and some clout. Yeah,
that can bring it up in different meetings, that can hold leadership teams accountable, because I think that's really what we're talking about. Sometimes, we had a change, certain areas of the business adopted it straight away, some of the others were behind the curve, and having a sponsor who can sort of hold a level of accountability as well to help you. There's one thing driving a program of work, there's another thing holding parts of the business accountable to the adoption of that change, and I think that's where a sponsor, the right sponsor, can be really valuable. So I touched, really it's about that. The other thing is, if you don't have a sponsor, changes can go very wayward very quickly. I would say there can be a bit of a loss of belief, clarity. Is it important? Isn't it important? So I think having the right sort of figurehead and then having somebody that's prepared to go and drive accountability, they're probably the two key elements. And then it's resources and unblocking. There can be some tactical things.
And what about? So I can think of lots of scenarios. So there was like the big changes. So let's say there was like the tier 1 changes, right?
Yeah.
So let's imagine you're working in the UK. The person that's the head of the UK is driving tier 1 changes. So these might be like the massive things, right? We're putting a new SAP system in, or whatever these really big sort of changes are. But then there's a lot of changes that are maybe tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 changes, where perhaps they need to happen. They're not up at the head of the UK that needs to, that's going to sponsor them, but they affect multiple departments. And you're trying to get people to buy into this thing that you want to happen, but there isn't just going to be one person that's going to filter it all down. You're going to have to work with all those departments, and they might be your peers, or they might be senior to you, but not in your reporting line.
Yeah.
How do you approach that kind of change where it's a bit more matrixed?
Yeah, I mean, that's your stakeholders, isn't it? So you've got multiple layers of stakeholder, but that's probably your functional owner stakeholder. From how you articulated that, that's a tricky one. I would use the sponsor in many cases to help influence the stakeholders.
Yeah,
I'd also kind of pick them off one-on-one. Depends on the scale of what we're talking about. But let's say there's 5 to 10 functional units and you need to get them on board. You're going to have to, a bit like we talked earlier, really, with the awareness and the desire, you're going to have to talk to these stakeholders and work out the desire, for them and how they can get bought into it.
Yeah.
And there's a few different ways. Of course, the proactive way, one-on-one, maybe you can come along and talk to them in their team meetings. There's different ways that you can go about those things. And then there's also, if you've got the right sponsorship, then I would think showing the adoption by functional area and making people know up front that you're going to drive some of that, accountability and reporting is helpful.
I think, for me, I think you hit the nail on the head there when you said it's about talking to them, going back to that ADKAR about creating the awareness of what the problem is for them and helping them create the desire, because what's in it for them might be very different narrative to what's in it for you. So for you, it might solve problem X and Y, but for them, it's going to solve problem A and B. And if you're talking to them in X and Y language, that's not going to land. Whereas if you're talking to them in A and B language, which is what they care about, then that's going to land. So you've got to change your narrative based on.
And also the other, I call it a bit of haircut. Like I've had a scenario, I think of a specific one where a function said, it is really important to me, but I'm on fire. I've got X, Y, and Z going on, and I'll get to it, but I'm going to be 3 months behind.
Yeah.
Well, that communicating and having that level of conversation up front allows me to put, like when I'm sending out reports, rather than me
just sticking red next to that as well.
If you think about it, you're kind of throwing them under the bus, aren't you?
Yeah.
Whereas actually, if you can communicate that as part of your thing, that we've got a phased rollout for these reasons, and here's the ones that we've gone live with, and here's the context of why we haven't. That's much, much better, right? Because there's nothing worse than throwing people under the bus, because that sort of, diminishes trust with those stakeholders, and you're going to be harder to work with them in the future. So I think it's a bit tricky to talk about all of the detail there, but hopefully that's a good example where it's not just everyone must do everything all at the same time, and you've got to find a way. Sometimes there's some room for manoeuvre.
What about when you've got a thing that affects your team, your department a lot, real passion thing, your area that you're really passionate about?
Yeah.
But you can't find that way to create awareness and desire with the other stakeholders. Like, they just don't care, right? You're really passionate about this thing. They couldn't give two hoots. What would you say if you find yourself in that sort of
scenario? Very black and white. I'm not agreeing with he couldn't give two hoots, but I would say so. I've had examples of that in the last couple of places I've been, where sometimes what you have to do is build it and show it.
Okay.
So what you can do is you can build yourself a little island. This is not what you should do. Okay. Build a little island and go off on your own. But that's not what I'm advocating for. What I'm advocating is sometimes you can build some things out, but you can build them with scale in mind. So I won't go into all of it, but I built out, the group built out a service excellence program. And what we did was we built it out for the area of the business that we were in, but we wrote it in a way that anyone could adopt it. And then we said, look, I know you haven't got time for it right now, but have you got some great people that are, your top quality people that would spend some time giving us feedback on the content, so that as we create it, we get your input on it, and then it means that when you are ready to adopt it, or if you do see the value, that you're already essentially partway up the change curve, aren't you?
Yeah.
So that's an example. I often see that piloting some of these things, again, it's that sort of it's about being, isn't it, agile, I suppose, in many ways, is chunk something up, show the value of it, build on that. And so I think you can do that, but that's not about not telling anyone and doing something, being the submarine, disappearing, doing something and popping back up. I think you can get a level of buy-in and awareness of something and then say, I'm happy to share and involve you as we go.
I think there's also something to say for picking your battles. Like, we've made a bit of an assumption here that every change is a good change and a really good idea. And actually they're not. And sometimes if you need to convince a load of people and you can't get them past desire, maybe ask yourself, is this a good idea? Is this what I want to put my energy in? Because all the sponsors I need to talk about are telling me no. I mean, and I've tried that several times. Okay, let's pick another battle because that's not going to help my career.
Well, and depending on this is tricky while we're sort of hypothesizing with some of this, but with very real examples in our minds. But there are going to be changes where if you don't get buy-in, you won't get the resources and the money and all of those things, and you've just got to go, it's not the right time. And I've definitely seen some people kind of banging drums. I'm right. Often it's not about being right, though, is it? It's about how you can have an impact and the timing and how things fit together. So I think you're right. Sometimes you've just got to pause it. Sometimes you can prove it.
Sometimes it's about perseverance and tenacity.
And sometimes it's
cut your losses.
Exactly.
Well, on that bombshell, I think we're coming towards the end of the episode. So let's maybe just think about key takeaways. What would be the key takeaways from this episode?
I think if we align it to some of the modelling and things that we've talked about, I think it's about effective change isn't about sending out a broadcast telling people to do the thing, rolling the thing out and done. I think what effective change is about is to go back to the model. It's about consumption. It's about people driving impact and value through that change. So when you think about it in that way, you understand that you need to take some time with the right people and understand some of the dynamics. And it is dynamic as well because it's over time. And a model like ADKAR, Kotter's also a useful model, but it allows you to sort of tap in and understand where people are. Do they know what's going on? Are they bought into it? Have they got what they need? And then are we recognising it and really driving the momentum? I think that's change in a nutshell. ADKAR doesn't do a terrible job of working that through. I think I'd agree with you, and I think that just one of those key things that I learned is, and I've just seen over the years, is people constantly starting with K, constantly with a C, starting with K knowledge, which is not doing that work to make people aware of the problem, why they should change, and persuading them in a language that resonates with them and convinces them and influences them that this is a good thing to do. And people just come in with, this is the change you need to make, this is how you do it. And just that backing up, that's the bit that I see a lot of people forget to do. I think if we invest a bit of time in there, change is just so much more effective when you take people with you and take people on that journey. Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. If people want to get in touch with you, how can people best get in touch with you? LinkedIn is probably the best. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll put that in the show notes so that people can see that link. So I think the only final thing for me to say is thank you so much for coming on the show. Again, it has been wonderful to have you with us.
Pleasure. Thanks, Ben.
Don't go yet. Remember to subscribe to the podcast and rate the show. It really helps us grow and book new great guests. And remember, if the podcast isn't enough for you and you want weekly microlearning delivered straight to your inbox, sign up to the Tech World Human Skills Weekly. Head over to www.techworldhumanskills.com to sign up.